Do not open dark web packages. True stories. Imagine you're returning home after a long day at work. You're tired, you're hungry, all you want is a shower and to relax. And then you see a box on your doorstep. A box you didn't order. No sender label. No delivery company logo. Just a plain, brown, ordinary box, wrapped with ordinary duct tape. Most people would think, it must be a mistake. I'll open it and see who it's from. But what if I told you that this simple action, opening a box you didn't ask for, could connect you to the darkest corners of the internet? To places where ordinary people should never, ever have access? My name is Nick, and I spend too much time thinking about dark web packages and the absolutely terrifying true stories of the people who open them. If you're someone who likes real-life stories about dark web deliveries, go ahead and click the subscribe button and leave a like if this video helps you. Because what you're about to hear today isn't science fiction. It's not about aliens or imaginary monsters. These are real, documented stories of real people who opened packages that should never have been opened. And some of these people, well, they were never the same again. Look, the thing is this: the dark web isn't just a place where hackers and criminals do shady business. It's an entire ecosystem, an invisible web where the most disturbing facets of humanity meet. And sometimes, very rarely, that web connects with our physical world. Through packages. Let me tell you about Michael Patterson. Real name, real story, documented by the Seattle police in 2019. Michael was an ordinary guy. 34 years old, worked in IT, lived alone in an apartment on Capitol Hill. He was the kind of person you'd pass on the street and wouldn't even notice. A bit shy, quiet, but friendly when you started a conversation. In March 2019, Michael came home and found a box at his apartment door. Medium size, about the size of a shoebox, but a little bigger. Wrapped in plain brown paper with reinforced duct tape. No label. No name. No return address. Just his name, Michael Patterson, handwritten in black pen. Here's what most people don't realize. When you receive an ordinary package, there are always traces. Tracking number, company logo, barcodes. That's the system working. But when there's none of that, when there's just your name handwritten, it means someone delivered this personally. Someone was at your door. Michael was confused. He hadn't ordered anything, wasn't expecting anything, but he thought, maybe it's a gift from a friend, or maybe it was delivered to the wrong address. He took the box inside. He placed it on the kitchen table, and he grabbed a pair of scissors. Now you might be thinking, of course he'd open it. Anyone would. And you're right. Any normal person would open it, because we live in a society where packages are normal, where deliveries are part of everyday life. But this normality is exactly what makes these deliveries so effective. Michael cut the tape, opened the box flaps, and inside was another, smaller box, made of black cardboard. Elegant, like those expensive gift boxes. Inside this black box was black tissue paper, carefully folded. And inside the tissue paper, a vial. A clear glass vial the size of a pill bottle, sealed with a metal cap. Inside the vial was a clear liquid, colorless, like water. And clipped to the cap with a rubber band was a folded note. Michael unfolded the note. It was written in computer-printed letters. You have been chosen. Drink and see the truth. Do not drink and live in the lie. You have 72 hours to decide. Yes, that's right. Like something out of a bad horror movie script. But remember, this is real. This actually happened. Michael stood there holding the vial, utterly confused. His first thought was, this is a stupid prank. Maybe some friend of his was pulling a stupid joke. He took a picture of the note and posted it to his friend's group chat on WhatsApp. Someone sent this to me. WTF. No one took responsibility. No one knew anything about it. One of his friends replied, dude, throw that away. That's creepy as hell. Another friend, don't touch it. It might be anthrax or something. But there was a third friend, let's call him Jake, who said something different. Jake said, "Man, that looks like dark web stuff. There are some crazy stories about it. People getting packages from social experiments or worse." And this is where Michael did what any curious person in the digital age would do. He started to research. This is where it gets really interesting because what Michael discovered was not comforting. Quite the opposite. He started searching for stories about unsolicited dark web packages and quickly fell down a rabbit hole of forums, subreddits, and obscure websites. There were stories, many stories. A woman in Portland who received a box containing an antique clock, and 3 days later started having terrible nightmares about a man watching her sleep. The nightmares were so vivid that she sought a psychiatrist. 2 weeks later, they discovered there was a micro camera hidden inside the clock, live streaming to somewhere in Russia. A man in Boston who received an old handwritten book in Latin. He tried to translate it and discovered it was a grimoire, a 17th century book of black magic. He posted photos online and received hundreds of messages from people begging him to burn the book. He didn't burn it. 3 weeks later, he had a complete mental breakdown and was hospitalized. A couple in Florida who received a box containing a Victorian baby dress. They didn't have children. They weren't planning on having any. The wife started hearing a baby crying at night. The husband didn't hear anything. They divorced 6 months later. Now you might be thinking, that's all superstition, coincidence, suggestible people. And maybe you're right. But here's what most people don't realize about the dark web. It's not just about drugs and weapons. It's about psychology. It's about manipulation. It's about people who understand how the human mind works and how to break it. There is a whole subculture on the dark web dedicated to social experiments. Groups that send random packages to specific people just to see what happens. To study human behavior. To observe how people react to fear, curiosity, the unknown. It's like those famous psychological experiments, Milgram, Stanford Prison, but without ethics, without supervision, without consequences. And Michael was beginning to understand that he might have become part of one of these experiments. He looked back at the vial on his table. The clear liquid inside looked innocent, almost like distilled water. But the note, "Drink and see the truth." What the hell did that mean? Michael was skeptical by nature. He worked with computers. He understood how the internet works. He knew that 90% of online stories were exaggerated or false. But there was something about that vial, about the way it was delivered, the way it was packaged, the specificity of the note, that disturbed him. So he did something smart. He decided to take the vial for analysis. The next day, Michael took the vial to a friend who worked in a chemical lab. He didn't tell him the whole story, just said he had received something suspicious and wanted to know what it was. It took 3 days for the results to come back. When they came back, his friend called Michael with a very, very serious tone. "Michael, where did you get this?" "What? What is it?" Look, most of it is just distilled water. But there are traces of DMT. Silence. DMT? Like, the drug. Yes, dimethyltryptamine. But in a very, very low concentration. Not enough to cause a full trip, but enough to affect you. Cause mild perceptual effects, maybe minor hallucinations. Michael felt his stomach turn. Anything else? Yes. There are also traces of scopolamine. What's that? It's a drug known as devil's breath. It's used in Colombia by criminals to incapacitate victims. It causes amnesia, extreme suggestibility, loss of free will. People remain conscious but completely malleable. They'll do anything you tell them. Now Michael's heart was racing. Was someone trying to drug me? It looks like it. And look, Michael, you should take this to the police. Seriously. Michael agreed. He was going to take it to the police. But before that, he wanted to understand more. That night, Michael went deeper into the dark web, something he had never done before. He downloaded the Tor browser. He started browsing the marketplaces, the forums, the places where people discuss these things openly. And that's where he found something that made him stop breathing. A forum called the Delivery Project. It was a closed forum, but there were screenshots and leaked posts on other sites. And what Michael read froze him solid. The Delivery Project was exactly what it sounded like. An organized group that sent packages to random people. Not so random, actually, people carefully selected based on psychological profiles built through data collected online. The goal? To observe the limits of human curiosity and rationality under psychological pressure. In other words, they chose people, they studied them, they created personalized packages designed to exploit specific psychological vulnerabilities, and then they watched what happened. And they documented everything. There were posts about dozens of deliveries. Some people threw the packages away immediately. These were considered failures. Other people opened them but didn't interact. These were partial successes. But the ideal victims were those who opened, interacted, and then became obsessed. Michael read post after post. Stories of people who received strange objects and then started compulsively researching. People who connected with other forum members to try to solve the mystery. People who became paranoid, obsessed, psychologically destroyed. And then he saw something that made him want to throw up. A recent post. With a photo. The photo was of a brown box. Medium size. Wrapped in duct tape. With the name Michael Patterson handwritten on it. Below the photo the post read. Delivery number 237 completed. Subject. Michael Patterson, Seattle, Washington. Profile. Skeptical, IT worker, active social network, high curiosity, low initial paranoia. Package. Vial with perceptual solution plus force choice note. Hypothesis. Subject will research online before acting. Probability of ingestion. 15%. Probability of psychological involvement. 85%. Observation initiated. Michael slammed the laptop shut so fast he almost broke it. He looked around his apartment. Suddenly, everything looked different. The shadows seemed darker. The sounds seemed louder. Were they watching him? Oh. He ran to the window and closed all the curtains. He turned off the Wi-Fi. He covered his laptop webcam with duct tape. And then he realized something terrifying. The vial. He still had the vial. It was still on the kitchen table where he had left it. And now Michael knew with absolute certainty, that there were people somewhere in the world, probably in some dark basement or anonymous apartment, watching him through cameras he couldn't see, waiting to see what he would do. Here's what most people don't understand about psychological terrorism. It's not about what happens to you. It's about what you think might happen to you. Michael wasn't physically harmed. No one broke into his house. No one directly threatened him. But mentally, psychologically, he was being torn apart. Because now he knew he was being watched. That his every move was being documented. That he was part of an experiment. And the worst part? He didn't know how they were watching. Was there a hidden camera in the apartment? In the building? On the street? Did they have access to his cell phone? His laptop? His emails? Paranoia is like cancer. Once it starts, it spreads. Michael spent the next 24 hours searching the entire apartment. He disassembled every electrical outlet, inspected every object, looked for anything that seemed out of place. Nothing. He found absolutely nothing, which was somehow worse, because it meant that either they were really good at hiding things, or the surveillance was purely digital. Or, and this was the most terrifying possibility, there was no surveillance at all. And it was all just an elaborate psychological bluff designed to make him go insane. But if it was a bluff, why did the forum post have a photo of the box before he opened it? With his name? This was real. This had to be real. Michael barely slept that night. When he finally dozed off, he had vivid nightmares about shadowy figures watching him through the walls. When he woke up the next morning, there was a new message on his cell phone. From an unknown number. 48 hours left. Drink or do not drink. But decide. Michael dropped the phone as if it were burning. How did they have his number? Of course. Of course they did. If they knew where he lived, if they had built a psychological profile of him, it was obvious they had his phone number. Michael called the police. The Seattle Police Department took Michael's complaint seriously. Sort of. 2 detectives came to his apartment. They asked questions, photographed the vial, took notes about the dark web forum. But Michael could see it in their eyes. They thought he was exaggerating, that maybe it was just an elaborate prank. "Look, Mr. Patterson," one of the detectives said, "we'll investigate. But between you and me, the dark web is full of people trying to scare other people. Trolls, basically. That forum you found could just be roleplay. People making up stories. But what about the drug in the vial? My friend analyzed it. It has DMT and scopolamine. Yes, and we're going to take the vial for official analysis. If it's confirmed, that's a federal crime. Sending controlled substances through the mail. But even so, it doesn't mean there's an elaborate conspiracy. It might just be a random psycho." The detectives took the vial. They said they would be in touch. Michael was left alone in the apartment again. But now without the vial. And somehow without the vial he felt even more vulnerable. Because now he had no physical evidence. No proof that any of this had happened. Except the messages on his cell phone. Except the post on the forum. Except the knowledge that somewhere someone was watching. That night, Michael received another message. 24 hours. You lost your choice when you called the police. But don't worry. There's always a second phase. Michael didn't sleep at all that night. He sat on the couch with all the lights on, a kitchen knife beside him, just watching the door. Waiting. Waiting. But nothing happened. Nothing happened the next day either. Or the day after that. A week passed. 2 weeks. A month. The police came back with the lab results. Yes, there was DMT and scopolamine in the vial. They opened an investigation. But there were no fingerprints on the box. No DNA. No way to track who sent it. The case went cold. Michael tried to get back to normal life. He returned to work. Stopped obsessively checking the forum. Stopped covering the cameras. But he was never the same again. He became more withdrawn. More paranoid. He stopped accepting packages. Stopped giving his address to anyone. And every night, before going to sleep, he checked the doors and windows 3 times. Because the thing is, the real terror is not what happens to you. It's what might happen. It's the knowledge that somewhere, someone knows who you are, where you live, how to manipulate you. And you will never, ever know when they're coming back. 6 months later, Michael was starting to feel almost normal again. He had moved to a new apartment. He had changed his phone number. He had closed all his old social media accounts and created new ones with pseudonyms. He thought he had escaped. And then, one morning in October, he opened the door to his new apartment to go to work. And there was a box on the doorstep. Small. The size of a jewelry box. Wrapped in black paper. No label. Just his name, Michael Patterson, handwritten in gold ink. Michael looked at the box for a long, long time. His heart was hammering in his chest. His hands were shaking. He knew he shouldn't open it. But there was something different this time. A feeling. A compulsion. As if the box were calling to him. He picked up the box. Took it inside. And this time when he opened it, inside was a small mirror. The size of his palm. And the frame was darkened silver with strange symbols engraved on it. And attached to the back was a note. "Look and see who you truly are." Michael looked into the mirror. And for a moment, just a moment, he saw something that wasn't his reflection. Something was behind him. A figure. Tall. Dark. Faceless. Just watching. Michael threw the mirror on the floor. It shattered into 1,000 pieces. And when he turned around, there was nothing there. The apartment was empty. But he could feel it. He could feel that something had changed. Something had entered. And it was never, ever going to leave. The last time anyone heard from Michael Patterson was 3 weeks after the incident with the mirror. He stopped going to work, stopped replying to messages, stopped paying rent. When the landlord finally entered the apartment, he found the place completely empty. All the furniture was gone, all the clothes, everything, as if Michael had never existed. The only thing left was a note on the refrigerator, written in Michael's handwriting. It simply said, "They were right. I saw the truth. I can't go back." The police searched for Michael. His friends searched. His family searched. But he simply vanished. To this day, no one knows what happened to him. And here's the most terrifying part. On the Delivery Project forum, there is a final post about Michael. Delivery number 237 successfully completed. Subject achieved full integration. Observation concluded. Next subject identified. Look, the point is this. I don't know if this story will make you think twice before opening an unsolicited package. Maybe it should. Because the dark web is not just a digital place. It's a philosophy. It's the idea that there is a side of reality that most people never see. A side where the rules don't apply. Where people can experiment with others just because they can. And sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes, that dark side manifests in the physical world. Through a box. Left on your doorstep. With your name handwritten on it. So, the next time you receive a package you weren't expecting, maybe it's better to leave it closed. Because some boxes weren't meant to be opened. And some truths weren't meant to be known. My name is Nick. If you like this video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you have a similar story, if you've ever received something strange and inexplicable, leave it in the comments. I read them all. But one tip, don't open dark web packages. Never.